Hi everyone and welcome. So today I thought I'd do a video on color theory. So basically I'm going to do two of these videos. I'm going to do one for face and then I'm going to do one for eye. So we'll do the eye one first because I think it's the funnest. But I just kind of wanted to share some tips, some tricks, some techniques, how to make your eye color pop, talking about different color schemes, how colors interact with each other, and basically how you can use that to enhance your eyeshadow application techniques. So if you want to learn more, then just keep watching. So let's talk about the color wheel. So basically there are three types of colors on the color wheel. So first off, you've got your primary colors. Now your primary colors are like your building block colors. So that's going to be your red, your yellow, and your blue. And all other colors will kind of come from these guys being mixed together in various forms. So those are your primary colors. Then you have your secondary colors. So that's going to happen when you mix two of those primary colors together. So you've got your green, your orange, and your purple. And then you have tertiary colors. I didn't make a palette for those, but that's basically when you mix a primary color and a secondary color together. And then we start getting into like your blue violets, your orange reds, your yellow greens, things like that. So basically, it's just really helpful to remember like just the basic building blocks of colors when you're doing any sort of makeup application, simply because it just keeps in the back of your mind what's going to happen when one color interacts with another. And it's helpful in complexion for color correction, but it's also helpful in doing eye makeup, simply because when you're blending, if I'm blending a red with a yellow, I need to know that it's going to make orange, otherwise I'm going to be really surprised. So again, it's just one of those things that it's pretty simple, it's pretty basic stuff, but just really useful to kind of keep in the back of your mind. So now we're going to talk about hues, tints, and shades. So I have my little example palette here. So if you look at the top, our hue is going to be the red because that's the purest form of the original color. Then if we look down here, this is going to be more of a shade. So a shade is basically a hue that has had typically black or brown added to it to make it a little bit darker. And then this is going to be our tint. So this is, for example, so if you take red and you add white to it, you get more of like a pink color. So pink is basically a tint of red. So again, really just understanding this really helps in like picking out colors, not even just like blending and applying them, but understanding kind of what colors you're looking for or what they're gonna do, and what the undertone in a color is, by identifying what the original hue of the color is. So for example, red's a really good example because most people don't wear red eyeshadow, but a lot of people wear pink eyeshadow. So just understanding the undertone of the original color that was used to create it is really helpful when you're picking out shadows. So now we're going to talk about color schemes, which I think are probably the most useful piece of information about color theory that you can have for creating makeup designs, especially eye looks, just because understanding the end game that you want to get and the effect that you're going for, it's really useful information to know. So I'm just going to talk about three of them that I think are like probably the most popular that you see the most. So the first one, and this is the one that you probably see more than any other, is a monochromatic color scheme. And basically all that means is it's different shades and tints of the same hue. So I have my little example palette set up here. So this would be a monochromatic color scheme in purple. So as you can just see, I have just different shades and tints of the color purple here. So this is a really useful, this one, it can really be dramatic, it can be natural, it doesn't really matter, it depends on the original color that you pick, or the color that the color scheme is in. Like obviously if you do it in more like neutral browns, it's gonna be a more natural look. Like if I used this, it would obviously be a little bit more dramatic because I have some darker colors in there. But basically this is really helpful for somebody, especially if you're not good at pairing colors together. A monochromatic color scheme is going to be really helpful because all the colors are naturally going to go with each other because they're all shades and tints of the original hue. So there's going to be no fuss work. This is probably the easiest type of of color scheme to work when you want to be able to blend really well too, because you don't have to worry about colors changing when you blend them into each other, because again, they're all part of the same original hue. So super helpful. Another tip that I like to say is if you're going to go shopping, this is probably like the easiest type of palette to find. Like you have like your naked palettes, like all the Too Faced does those little natural eye palettes. Those are all going to be monochromatic color schemes. So super, super easy to find. It's probably the most popular color setup in makeup palettes, just because it's the easiest to work with, because everything just naturally blends into each other and every color will go with each other. So you can use the palette however you want to. When you're setting up your own palette, I know I see a lot of artists that do this. You know, obviously we'll put shades that kind of go together in the same palette when we're working, but I always find it really helpful to always throw some neutral colors in there too. Like I have a black in every single palette that I have, just because it makes it easy. I'm always going to use it, and that way I don't have to go to a separate palette to get it. And then I always have like a highlight color. I'll usually have like just like a neutral brown or something like that too. That way I don't have to grab like my smoky palette if I'm doing a really natural eye just because I want a black. So just a little tip. So the next color scheme that I'm going to talk about is analogous. So basically what this one is it's very similar to monochromatic. These are all colors that are naturally touching on the color wheel. So I've got my little example palette here. So like we've got like a light blue, then we get more into a blue-green, true blue. Well, I guess I didn't really organize these very well, but you get the idea. So these are all colors that would naturally be grouped together in the same section of the color wheel. So like monochromatic, this is a really easy color scheme to work in, and you tend to see it in a lot of pre-made palettes, simply because these colors all hang out together on the color wheel, so they're all friends already. So they blend really well into each other and they work really well with each other, and they're all naturally flattering with each other, simply because, again, they're all from the same kind of end of the spectrum. So again, with this one, it can go more dramatic or it can go more natural. It just kind of depends on the colors that you actually choose and how saturated they are or how pigmented they are. The one thing that I would say is with this color scheme, since you're working a little bit brighter, you tend to want to pick a dominant color. So for example, if I was using my palette here, I would probably pick either this guy or maybe this guy or this guy is my dominant color, and then I would use everything else to just support it, so I would have that nice balance in my eye look. Yeah, so the last color scheme that we're going to talk about is triadic, and this is probably one of the most difficult to master color schemes that there is out there. But it definitely can create a high amount of contrast. So this is a really good one if you're really looking to do more of a dramatic eye look, or you're wanting to use different colors that aren't necessarily next to each other on the color wheel. So basically what a triadic color scheme is they're colors that are equally spaced on the color wheel. So almost if you made like a little triangle right in the center, anything that's on a point is going to be one of your triadic colors. So I have my little example here. So like red, yellow, and blue, and I know that doesn't look like a blue, but I swear it is. It's just really dark. So obviously this is going to be a little bit more bold. Not everybody's going to kind of go for these kind of colors together. You can always mute it out. Like for example, I have a reddish brown here, I have a gold, and I have a much lighter blue, just to kind of make it a little bit more wearable for daytime or whatever it is that you're going for. Most people wouldn't wear most people aren't going to walk around with that eye look. That's pretty clown. But basically these colors are going to pop each other out. So they're going to create a high contrast look. Even if you do it in a more natural range, again, it's still really going to create that these colors naturally oppose each other. So they're going to create that almost like dimension within their scheme. I don't know, that didn't really make any sense, but you get the idea. So this is definitely a color scheme that is, if you're going for more of a dramatic eye look, this can be really useful. Again, just make sure you're picking a dominant color and that the other colors support it, especially since they're so dramatically different. You want to be careful as to not overwhelm the people that are looking at your face, because you don't want to go full clown. That's just not cool. We never want to do that. But yeah, so this can be really helpful just to understand color schemes and kind of, again, what you're going for. It's really helpful when setting up your palette because you kind of have your colors that work well together next to each other, so you don't have to worry about searching for things as much. So how do I make my eye color pop? Probably the number one question that makeup artists get asked. Um, and it's a good question because eyes are the window to the soul. Everybody wants to know how to do that, you know, how to make your eyes stand out even more or enhance the natural color of your eye. So basically, I mean, with anything else, we want to think back to our color schemes because they're really going to help you enhance your natural eye color. So if you want a bigger pop where you really want to enhance your eye color, you really want, like if you have blue eyes and you want to make them bluer, or green eyes and you want to make them greener, think back to that triadic color scheme. What is directly opposite of your eye color on the color wheel? So if you have blue eyes, then red is the opposite color. So any color that has a lot of red in it, those really rich warm tones, are really going to make your eyes look that much bluer. If you want to stay more neutral, well, what's next to blue on the color wheel? You want to go more in our analogous color schemes. Those are going to be like your violets and your blues, where it's really going to complement your eye color, but not necessarily pop it out quite so much. It's just going to be really flattering. Same thing with green eyes. If I have green eyes and I want to work more on a triadic color scheme and I really want to make them more green, again, I'm going to go to what's opposite of green on the color wheel. If I have more hazel eyes, hazel is a difficult color because it just kind of depends on the person. Typically, you can either go more brown or more green. So just kind of pick the dominant color and then go from there. For brown eyes, honestly, brown eyes, the world's kind of your oyster. You can pretty much do anything that you want with a brown eye and it's going to be flattering. But I am very partial to purples and greens on a brown eye. I think they're absolutely beautiful and they definitely enhance, like, brown eyes tend to have more of a warm undertone to them. So I find that really, the coolness of those colors really helps pop that eye out. And then of course, brown eyes look beautiful and gold shadows and things like that as well. So just kind of thinking of what it is that you're going for, whether you want that big pop or that little pop, and choosing a color scheme that's appropriate to get that desired effect. So I do have my little makeshift palette here. So I did this side more for like blue and green eyes. These are all shades that are going to be really complementary on those. So I've got some golds, I've got some like reds, I've got some reddish browns in there, I've got some like more kind of like reddish pinks in there, and then for brown and hazel eyes on this side I have more purples and greens on this side. So those would be two ways that you can really experiment with popping your eye color out. Honestly though, to each their own. Whatever you feel good in is probably the color that you should go with because it's going to give you the most confidence. I hear so many people say, oh, I can't wear that color, oh, I can't wear that color. Yes, you can. You can wear whatever color you want to because honestly, if it makes you feel good and it makes you feel beautiful, that's exactly what makeup is for, and that's, you know, that's the end game. That's what we're all going for. So I tend to kind of like when people ask me how to pop their eye color, I give them like basic information, but you want to make sure that you don't restrict yourself in what you're able to wear as well, because color is so much fun. Why limit yourself to how much fun you could have? That sounds like a horrible existence. Yeah, so oh my god, I almost like knocked all my shadows here off my table. That was crazy. So there we go, color theory. So I hope this video was really informative and helpful. I definitely had a lot of fun making this one. It's going to be really hard to edit. I think I talked for like almost a half hour straight, and I definitely can't make that long of a video. I made a huge mess. I'm going to share a little picture at the end because it's like ridiculous how many shadows I have on this table in front of me. But yeah, I hope this was informative. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe.